generations, mankind has thought of the ocean as a bottomless larder, filled to the brim with an inexhaustible supply of seafood. We're beginning to realize that this is only an illusion. Longlining is one of the most destructive fishing techniques employed today. Since the near extermination of tuna and marlin populations in the Atlantic, many longline fishing operators have now moved their home base to Hawaii, increasing the fleet to over 100 vessels.
There's two different types of longlining. There's longlining at a deep angle and at a shallow angle. And one's for tuna and one's for swordfish. The tuna's at the deep angle, the shallow angle is for swordfish.
A single longline can stretch for up to 90 kilometers, is baited with up to 3,000 hooks, and is left in the water for up to 16 hours. Although the primary target species for longliners are tuna and swordfish, an enormous percentage of all life caught is made up of incidental bycatch. These animals are not commercially viable, so they're usually tossed back into the water injured or already dead. Longlining is responsible for the deaths of thousands of seabirds and turtles.
The seabirds see the bait and they dive after the bait, and they bite the hook and they get hooked and they get pulled under as the hook sinks and they drown. By the time the hooks are actually pulled aboard the vessel, most of the birds that are hooked are dead. There are very few that actually you unhook them and you let them go. That's very rare. In the case of leatherback turtles, they tend not to be attracted by the bait that much because leatherbacks feed primarily on jellyfish, and of course they don't use jellyfish for bait, so the leatherbacks, it appears, will get hooked either because they are attracted visually, or they may just be swimming by and get hooked because there are miles and miles of these stretched out across the ocean, and the leatherback will just get hooked on its flipper or somewhere on its body. And there is a limit to how long they can stay underwater, and so they will drown. Some of the ones that don't drown, they get hauled up. Of course, they're getting hauled up by a hook. And now if they've swallowed this hook, as is the case with most of the turtles besides the leatherback, because most of the other turtles, like the loggerhead, actually will go for the bait. They will swallow the hook. So they're being hauled onto the boat basically by their esophagus. And many of them will, if they're not already drowned, if they're still alive, they will suffer severe injury, even if they're not torn up and you just cut the line and you toss them back. Then you have a turtle that's swimming around with a hook in its gut, or you have a turtle with monofilament line that's trailing and winds up getting wrapped around a flipper or wrapped around the neck and cuts off circulation or causes infection. So you have a significant percentage of the turtles that aren't drowned dying within days, weeks, or maybe a month after they're set free. The leatherback has just plummeted. In the last 20 years, the population has nosedived so quickly that even the scientists are surprised at just how quickly this species is heading for extinction. And in the last couple of years, the predictions have been that this species may have another 15 years in the Pacific before it's extinct. These fisheries also catch albatross, the black-footed albatross and the Laysan albatross, both of which nest almost exclusively in the northwestern Hawaiian Islands. And scientists have done projections based upon the status quo that suggests that if something doesn't change significantly, longline fishing around the Pacific will cause the black-footed albatross over the next 3 generations, which for albatross means a total of maybe 60 years. The black-footed albatross will lose at least half of its population and may lose more than 90% of its population, primarily a result of longline fishing. I mean, frankly, right now, all of these boats are violating the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, which strictly prohibits killing migratory birds, including all of the albatross species that are caught by these boats. I mean, frankly, longlining is a problem that you can't entirely work around. You can put Band-Aid solutions on it to reduce the impact on albatross or turtles or marine mammals, but the problem isn't limited to bycatch, which you're not going to be able to eliminate totally anyway. The problem is also that we're running out of fish, and we're particularly the type of fish that are targeted by long lines. We are now finding that even tuna is getting to the point where, on a Pacific-wide basis, there is a risk that tuna is being overfished. You now have literally thousands of longline vessels in the Pacific fishing 24 hours a day, with millions and millions of hooks being fished on lines that are 60 miles long, being draped all over the Pacific. You cannot keep this up. And we're finding out that this is a fact. This is having an impact on turtles, birds, marine mammals, and the fish.
Tuna, swordfish, shark, grouper, and sea bass may disappear from stores and restaurant menus within a few decades, not because they're out of season or sold out, but because they have been lost from the seas forever.
The fisheries in the United States are run in a classic fox in the hen house manner by regional fisheries management councils that are staffed almost exclusively by commercial fishing interests. In Hawaii, the fishery is managed by the Western Pacific Regional Fishery Management Council, known as WestPAC. Now, WestPAC is staffed by fishermen primarily, including longline fishermen. So it actually is the longliners themselves that are running the fishery, and the results are predictable. It's all about how much money they can make and how quickly they can make it. And everything else is swept under the rug until somebody gets sued. So there are no real conservation interests that have any say at all in the management of the fishery.